Hey, welcome to Command HQ. Dean, as always, here. I'm a little saddened that Agent X is not around as much as he should be to come on the stream, and maybe that will change. But things have been pretty hectic, and there's been sort of a media tornado, so it's understandable. Regardless, I have a couple of videos and pieces of content that I wanted to share on stream, as well as Rudy Giuliani's bankruptcy petition, Chapter 11 petition in the Southern District of New York that was filed on Friday in the after effects of the liabilities with regard to the defamation lawsuit that was filed against him and the verdict. $150 million verdict against Rudy Giuliani. So I took a quick look at this bankruptcy petition, and I did some very shallow, basic research. But reading all these mainstream articles, mainstream media articles, and they're claiming that Rudy Giuliani has just a really wild financial history, and that the debts that Rudy Giuliani has are terrible. I mean, that's the gist of some of these articles you read when you're scanning through them, and it's very exaggerated. I watched a couple interviews too on like MSNBC, and you get these hack reporters who don't know anything about bankruptcy, and I'm not saying I do either, but it's not like they're financial experts trained in this, and they're just kind of going through it. So I took a look at the bankruptcy petition, and it really looks pretty clean. It does not look very bad at all. For someone who has made a lot of money in their life, it would be normal to incur this level of debt. And without that $150 million liability with Ruby Freeman and Shane Wass, I mean, this looks very, very good. There's 2 or 3 main debts. The one here that we're looking at is the IRS debt, the burden, the tax burden. And then the other one, let me look at my notes here, is the law firm that Rudy was paying, Idella, Bertuna, and Kamens, which is a $388,000 debt. So we'll look at that. Okay, so here's another IRS debt, $521K, 204,000 in state taxes, 10 grand, $2 million to the law office of Ronald Kuby. Davidoff, Hutcher, and Citron. No, I think, let's see, 1.36 million. I wonder if Eric Coomer is an expert witness. Okay, so let me, of course, I screwed my notes up here. Okay, here we go. That's what I was looking for. All right, so the attorney fees and the debt accumulated through the lawfare that Rudy Giuliani was under is substantial. No one's doubting that. 1.3 here, 2 million here, and then the $387,388,000 here. Now, if anything, this bankruptcy petition is a proxy or a fiat used in order to avoid paying your attorneys. If anything, that's what this bankruptcy petition amounts to. And Rudy is an attorney himself, knows a lot about the legal system. And at some point, it's so overwhelming dealing with all these lawsuits and lawfare, and I get it because I've been through it. That's one thing I do know. And Rudy is an attorney. Now, he's, with all due respect to Rudy Giuliani, he's not like a spring chicken. He doesn't have a lot of energy like someone who even in their 40s would have or 30s would have to draft all of these pleadings and file them, and it's a lot of work. Even just filing, even if you're not drafting them, the filing process can be kind of complicated. And for someone like me who's a software developer, the filing part I always told myself was very easy. And for someone who's kind of tech savvy, maybe it is, but you really have to be thorough and detailed to make sure that you're checking every single box, you're dotting your I's, you're crossing your T's, and you have your list ready to go so that you're double checking. And most of the time, you're even doing triple checks. So I can understand why someone who's a little bit older, even if they're an attorney, would want to sort of outsource that legal process. And anyone in the legal system, what's the famous sentence? If you represent yourself, you have a fool for a client. But what if you don't have any money? So, what if you're a pauper, meaning you're out of money? You're forced to represent yourself. And so at some point, I think, because especially considering the fact that these are all kangaroo courts and these are all sham lawsuits, you're going to lose everything. You're going to lose everything. I mean, I have seen, if you look at someone like Steven Donziger, who went to Harvard Law School, and he had to deal with epic lawfare from, uh, not Exxon, but the Conoco, Texaco, some of those other big oil companies. And I mean, they took him out. Now, once Steven Donziger was in this disciplinary process, and that's another thing I want to talk about here is Kevin Doyle and the grievance committee in New York when they went after Rudy Giuliani and they really screwed it up and they had to have some reciprocity disbarment in DC because they screwed the case up so badly in New York. But I want to compare and contrast that to Steven Donziger. They're two totally different people, actually different political. They're on a different political spectrum. Donziger is way more liberal. Giuliani obviously is a Republican. And they still, once you get into this system, and of course this happens way, 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 way more with Republicans and conservatives or libertarians. Anyone who's not a radical left-wing elite establishment Democrat gets treated like absolute garbage in the legal system. But even Steven Donziger, once they had their claws into him from a legal vantage point, he didn't win anything. There's no getting out of this. So if you're someone like Rudy Giuliani, it would have been easier just to default from the very beginning. He didn't provide any discovery, according to a lot of the mainstream news reports. I didn't read whether or not that's true. I'm assuming it's not true because that's exactly how they're going after Alex Jones, free speech systems. That's what they're doing to Trump to some extent in the Manhattan civil fraud trial. That's what they're doing to Mike Lindell and My Pillow, and it's a technicality that they can get away with and claim that you didn't provide all discovery, even if you have. All right, and The whole system is rigged. My point here is Rudy Giuliani could have represented himself, saved himself, $4 or $5 million in legal fees, but at the same time, he's going to get bankrupted anyway, so he might as well just pay whatever amount. But he could have used the $2 or $3 million here, which I think Mike Lindell is smartly doing, which is that he is paying streamers and podcasters. He's sponsored just tons of channels on Lindell TV and Rumble, and that's a great way to manage the narrative as well as effectively use the capital that you have. So I think that's actually very smart. And you know where Mike Lindell got that idea from? He got it from a real estate agent in Minnesota who was involved in a very messy divorce. Let me quickly Google this on my other screen here. I'm forgetting his name right now, but he had billboards all over the place. What was his name? What's his name? This is gonna kill me if I don't remember the name. Oh yeah, Chris Lindahl. Okay, so I guess you kind of got to be a Minnesotan to understand this. I consider myself kind of a Minnesotan because I'm from Minnesota. I live on the border, even though I've lived in Wisconsin for like 10 years. Okay, so Chris Lindahl. Let me see if this is yeah, no, this isn't very clear on the stream. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, so these billboards were everywhere on 94, on 35, county highways as well. There were ads on TV, ads on the internet. You don't see them as much anymore because Chris Lindahl kind of ran out of some of this money, but he used it to kind of build up his real estate practice. And, whether you like Chris Lindahl or not, that doesn't really matter. He tried to make sure that his ex-wife got as little money as possible in the divorce. And the only way to do that was to spend as much money on advertising as he possibly could. And that's exactly where Mike Lindell got this idea from. I know it. And I think it's a really, really good tactic. So getting back to Rudy Giuliani's bankruptcy petition here, we could go through all these debts and you could argue whether or not they're dischargeable. You got a Hunter Biden in here. You got Smartmatic, you got Dominion, yada, yada, yada. It's very, very clean. So you notice that the $148 million liability is the big one, right? Now, the assets that Giuliani listed are estimated to be between $1 and $10 million. I don't think they're identified on a line-by-line basis like the debts are here. I looked through this and maybe I got this from Scribed, by the way. So anybody can look at this on Scribed here because I didn't want to go into Pacer and actually pay the $3 to get it. But I'll provide a link in the stream to that Scribed. All right, so yeah, the assets aren't listed. Go through this, yada, yada, yada. I think it's IRS has a third-party collection agency here that it uses, and that's what is listed by Rudy. Very, very clean, though. So anything that's detailed in the national media, I'm just like, again, I feel like I'm being gaslit. It's like, okay, so most of it is attorney's fees. Well, Rudy is a victim of lawfare. what do you expect for someone like me who's had to deal with this for 10 years now? And if I post anything on the internet, I'm immediately accused of, A through Z in terms of crimes. These are just regular posts. Um, Hold on, I just got a message here. Let me find the other one too. Hold on. All right. I just had to respond to a message there, so I apologize. Right. So, I have a lot of energy, or at least I did, not as much as I used to. But I would have recommended just handling it all myself, saving the $2 million, and then just shoving this in their face, paying live streamers like Mike Lindell is doing, taking ads out, and just really, especially against Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, and more importantly, probably against the law firms here that they're using, and just talk about how ridiculous, um, the whole case is, where their funding is coming from. That's really important. I know that Reid Hoffman, who is the founder of LinkedIn, he didn't really found it. He just got other people to do his dirty work and somehow got loans from a bank to pay them. So Reid Hoffman, uh, is a self-proclaimed founder of LinkedIn, and he financed this. What the E. Jean Carroll rape lawsuit against Trump. Again, E. Jean Carroll is not behind this at all. They just picked her up as like a free agent almost and said, we really want to cause as much trouble for Trump as we possibly can from a legal perspective by filing this lawsuit. And, they're just funding these things. And so if I were Rudy Giuliani and it was someone who I could identify as funding these lawsuits, because it's some Democrat organization. For all it could be like the Southern Poverty Law Center. But let's just say, for example, it was Reid Hoffman. I don't have any information that he funded these lawsuits against Rudy Giuliani. I'm just saying hypothetically, because he did actually fund the lawsuits, and it's hard to get this too, because you have to file motion after motion, and a lot of the times it's rejected because they want to conceal their sources of funding the law firms, and it's really just corrupt. It's super crooked that third parties can fund these lawsuits, basically funding lawfare, and Congress has done nothing about it. But hypothetically, assuming that Reid Hoffman funded some lawsuit, I would take out ads against him. And I would, I would do my best to figure out a way to just expose him as much as possible, or whatever the source of funding was. So I think that's one learning, if you want to call it that you could kind of take away from this. Okay, so we have a WAPO article. I'm gonna paywall me here. Oh, this is another one. Where is it? Is this one, Mother Jones? Yeah, here it is. So the eye-popping details of Rudy Giuliani's bankruptcy filing. Again, they're trying to exaggerate this whole thing. Upwards of $500 million in unpaid debts. Again, those are mostly hypothetical lawsuit numbers that'll never actually be paid. More importantly, they just came up literally this week. If you were to file this petition before this verdict in the defamation case, it wouldn't be $500 million. It would be like $2 million. Let's go through this. Oh, and we're not even talking about the agitators, the paid protesters that got out and started shoving signs in Rudy's face, putting them over his head. It's so insulting considering the fact that Rudy Giuliani took out the mob in New York, uh, effectively responded to 9/11. That's the other thing. I forgot about that. If I was Rudy Giuliani and I had classified information about 9/11 because he was mayor of New York at the time that it happened, I'd be exposing all that right now. I'd be going after the deep state as hard as possible, and he hasn't done that. Okay. Yada, yada, yada. Filed for bankruptcy on Thursday. It was a huge story. Chapter 11. Boop, IRS. Yep. $1 million. It's more about a headline here than the actual details in the story from your boy Dan Friedman. If they really wanted to factually report on this, they could say that Rudy Giuliani's bankruptcy filing looks very clean and was filed in response to the sham kangaroo court verdict from Shane Moss and Ruby Freeman. All right, so let's switch gears here. I wanted to also talk quickly about this, which is that same pattern by what's her name? Is it Jenna Griswold, Colorado Secretary of State? A couple days ago, I talked about her. I'm just trying to find these other. Yeah, Jenna Griswold, inundated. Okay, so Jenna Griswold, right here, 39-year-old Secretary of State in Colorado. Same pattern. They're just using the same playbook. Anytime they get criticism because of their bogus, unconstitutional rulings that they roll out on red carpet, they immediately claim that any criticism that they get is quote unquote a threat. And it is so outrageous. So you read this WAPO article without the paywall, if you can quickly see the headline. Basically, what they're saying is, you can just see it in the URL bar here. Law enforcement, Colorado justices, and then what they're actually alleging is that any email that they're getting to the Colorado Supreme Court that is critical of their ruling this week is a quote unquote threat. And that's the world we live in. It's not even, these people aren't really fragile. Jenna Griswold is an Ivy League educated attorney. She went to the University of Pennsylvania Law School, right? She's used to people arguing. She's used to disgruntled citizens in Colorado. And it's a tactic, I think, to, well, it serves a number of it serves a number of core what's the word? I could explain it one way, but be using the correct words. They, I think they want to gain attention by acting like they're a victim. So it propels, especially these women, these millennial women who are between the age of 35 and 45. They can go on national TV. Oh, look at me, I'm a victim. So that's one area that they they're trying to you know, get a sympathy, get attention. So it serves that. And then the other thing I think that it does is it's almost like it's setting the tone for more tyranny because it's sending a message to all the citizens or whoever would send the Colorado Supreme Court an email. I mean, I don't know why you ever would, unless you're involved in a case and you're dealing with the actual underlying issues in that case, and you're sending an email to all the parties in the case. Other than that, though, I don't know why you would. Um, it sets the tone, I think, that they can then come after you if you criticize the government. But more importantly, I think the same pattern is popping up in all these cases. So the real question is, like, how do you, and I, so I have some notes here just so that I don't misstate anything. Okay, so I have a ton of gag orders on me, federal, state, and I just want to be very clear. I'm a pacifist. I've never threatened anyone in my entire life. I've never really been in a fight aside from just pushing people away. Um, outside of my family growing up, just, in public. And I think I got in a fist fight when I was in school, but as an adult, I've never really been in a fight, okay? I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in war unless it's for self-preservation. I strongly believe in the Second Amendment, but I also don't, I would never want to own any sort of weapon whatsoever. Um, that's just my personal belief for me. But I do understand why the Second Amendment is extremely important to protecting society. And it would be extremely helpful right now, for example, protecting against the huge rise in crime that we're seeing. If you have a citizen who is, protecting their family, that's really important. However, I just want to preface this with that fact. So I've never created a scene really. I'm very calm. I can be assertive and I'm stubborn, but I'm pretty calm. Now, with these gag orders, they can then claim, and again, this is what I'm talking about. Whenever you post something on the internet, uh, I get accused, and they're just lawful postings, right? First Amendment exercise. I get accused of A through Z, and everything that I post is immediately documented. I'm stalked repeatedly by a number of people, and there's no one here to protect me, right? Okay. And everybody has told me throughout the past 10 years, well, then just stop doing anything. But I think that's even worse. But if you say anything and you have one of these, like, if it's in the context of the government or even in these gag orders, that's the thing. They immediately accuse anything you say of being a threat. And now, when it first started happening to me, people really didn't really believe it. I mean, they just were like, okay, whatever, I don't want to get involved, which is normal. No one really wants to get involved in this bullshit. But now more and more people have seen this, like at these school board meetings and these mothers going to advocate for their child in a school, and then suddenly they're accused of being a domestic terrorist because they're getting up and speaking, and they get pissed when people come after them. So now, obviously everybody understands that this is pervasive throughout society. And this exact pattern of accusing anybody who's critical of the government of being a quote unquote threat, it sets such a dangerous precedent for society, and everybody knows that. And it just continues, and they're using the same playbook over and over. And the only way to solve this is suing these people immediately when they accuse you of, criminal activity simply because you're critical of the government. That's the only thing you can do. That's the only thing that I can think of. And I've done this. But it's also not something that you want to do either, because there's a lot of work involved. Speaking, if you connect this to Rudy Giuliani stuff, like, it takes energy. You have to know what you're doing. It's not for a layperson unless you do a lot of research and you have money to pay for subscriptions to, even Westlaw or something like that. It takes technical knowledge. So it's not like recommended that you get involved in anything like this, but I'm just saying that I think is the only way to stop this bullshit in its tracks. But no one's doing that. Like, if I were just some random citizen, and well, here's one example. So someone said in one of these comments, and I should be, unfortunately, I think there was some Twitter stuff and I didn't bring it up, but a lot of people had some comments on it and I would love to read them. But it said, someone emailed the Colorado Supreme Court and said that the justices, and I'm saying, quote, the justices should be thrown off the bench, unquote. Now, they claim that that was a threat, but it's said in the context of political speech. These are elected officials. They're appointed, but they're ultimately elected officials because they have to run for re-election. And the other common term is to say that a judge should be, quote, removed from the bench through lawful electoral avenues, right? Nothing is threatening about that. That's just saying that you want them out of government, that you effectively want to fire them, that their employment with the government should be terminated. There's nothing threatening about that. But again, they'll claim, and unfortunately, because we got paywalled here, and I refuse to pay for a WAPO subscription for sure. I'm not giving Jeff Bezos any money. But on the other computer that I was using, I was able to actually read some of these comments. I thought this was a public article because sometimes they make these articles public, but whatever. So that was one of the comments I was reading. And then, someone else said in one of these comments in this WAPO article that, our freedoms are at risk if Donald Trump is on the ballot. And I'm thinking, like, what freedoms are at risk? I don't know what world they're living in or what world I'm living in, because the only thing that I can think of that would be troubling would be the fact that Donald Trump appointed conservative Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe v. Wade, and now abortion is a state issue. And even then, if you assume that this is a freedom that you would want, which I don't believe, but if you were to classify it in that or if you were to colorize it in that context, it's still a state's issue. So you can move to a different state. I don't know, you can travel to a different state. Plus, it's not a freedom that's enshrined in the Constitution. It's not a freedom at all. Like, we have a couple of fundamental freedoms in this country. One is free speech, or the right to a First Amendment exercise. Second is, the right to bear arms, and the third is, I think, like the right to be free of unreasonable search and seizure, and then the right to a jury trial. those are like the 4 or 5 fundamental rights that we have. I mean, there's a due process clause as well, but that gets complex. It's very situational. So we have due process rights, but again, and we have the right to worship whatever religion is part and parcel to the First Amendment. So that's, kind of a global thing. All right, let's switch gears here where this gets too out of hand and look at Clay Higgins' new bill that he introduced. You can read some comments and end this. All right. New tweet from Clay Higgins. New law. If any state in our union blocks the official nominee of a major political party from the presidential ballot, their electoral slate will not be counted by Congress on the following January 6th. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Have a very MAGA Christmas. It's got 2 million views. All right, so there's 2 images in this tweet. And the cover page on the bill says, a bill to amend Title III United States Code to include under the Electoral Count Act of 1887 that the vote of an elector of a state shall not be counted if, with respect to the election for president, the state did not include on the ballot in the state a candidate for president who is nominated by a major political party and for other purposes. 1. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives, is the first paragraph. Second paragraph. The United States of America, yada yada. Okay. Let's read this. It's got paragraph numbers. This act may be cited as a quote Presidential Ballot Integrity Act. Heading. Section 2, rejection of electoral votes of a state in certain cases. Subparagraph A, in general, Section 15C1B of Title III United States Code is amended by inserting, quote, if, with respect to the state of the elector in question, a candidate for president who is nominated by a major political party for election to such office did not appear on the ballot of the state or after, quote, shall not be counted, unquote. Subsection B, major political party defined. Section 15 of Title III United States Code is amended by adding the end of the following, quote, subsection F, major political party defined. For purposes of this section, the term, quote, major political party, unquote, has a meaning given the term, quote, major party, unquote, in section 9002 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, unquote. So it gets technical there. I think that could be worded a little bit more clearly. Maybe they should use some Chat GPT, the aides to Clay Higgins there. But I get it. It's a law. It's kind of vaguely worded, but okay. So Clay Higgins says this bill was introduced in the People's House on December 22nd at 9 Eastern. So just reading some of the comments, people I think were pretty supportive. Now, these are generally, of course, people who follow Clay Higgins, so you're going to assume that they're probably a little more conservative, and so it's kind of an echo chamber, but hopefully there's some tweets, replies here that contradict or at least give new insights into what they think. So anyways, yep, okay. People say the obvious. Yeah, it's just a bill that's introduced, you fuckers. Okay. Get some assholes saying, oh, yeah, everybody knows that, dipshits. Okay. Legate says, sorry, but you can't deprive citizens of their constitutional rights to vote for qualified candidates. Oh, Keith Olbermann responded. This should be interesting. You know, a congressman and disgraced ex-cop. God, guy's such an asshole. All those people who've told you your IQ is above 50 and that you've gotten anything done while in Congress have been lying to you. Clay Higgins is very smart. I don't know what Keith Olbermann's talking about. Okay, Steve Six. It will not pass the Senate. Well, that's probably true. It probably won't. Joe Wallin. Good idea. The Colorado decision is a joke. Very true. Tyler Moore. Clay Higgins is anti-constitution. I don't know about that. Pink Rats says, you are writing comedy now, champ. With kind of a smirking emoji. Broken Arrow. Thank you, Rep. Clay Higgins, for being a true American. Libercrat trademark. This just earned you a MAGA Ultra Nuclear MAGA follow. Merry Christmas, Rep. Higgins. 100%. Christmas tree and Santa emoji. Mrs. Gen X. That's not how that works, Higgins. It's a violation of the United States Constitution. It's not in the Constitution. I don't know what she's citing. What do you mean it's a violation of the Constitution? I don't know. Colonel Rob Menes, retired. Thank you. Joey Menarino. Let's go. There's actually a lot of interesting people who responded to this. Tom Santos. Unconstitutional in the context of the Colorado case under the 14th Amendment, but you know that already. Peter Spurlock. Clay. This is all in bold. I know that Elon Musk introduced bold and italicized font formatting. Clay, your House resolution would violate the U.S. Constitution on its face. The only way your proposed idea to work is by amending our U.S. Constitution, and you know how difficult that will be. Good loosh luck. Jody, Andrea, Bitcoin, symbol. Don't know how they do things down in Mayberry, but a bill needs to be made a law. This is not a law. I mean, these are assholes. Why would you say that? Of course, everybody knows that, you fucker. Okay, Michael Datson. Sorry, Rep. Higgins, this is not a quote law. Okay, again, yep, everybody knows that. Leonidas K. You got a lot of like Nazis on here almost. Like, okay, let's just let someone speak. Let's not surgically analyze every single word. Leonidas K. Good then. POTUS can remain POTUS indefinitely. Sounds like a plan. Yeah, right. People would start committing suicide in this country if Joe Biden remained indefinitely as president. I'm saying that jokingly. Please. Just saying people would be very depressed. And not me, by the way. But I mean, I hate Joe Biden actually, but just, again, I was joking. Lady Patriot, hashtag Trump 2024. I love you, Clay Higgins. Maybe clone you to fill the halls of Congress. The Rifleman, 11. Frankly, it should apply to any qualified party. Tyler Moore. You don't have the constitutional power to not count electoral slates. Your attempted law is unconstitutional. Southern Dom Sense. Clay is in full beast mode. I love it when he does that. Dog turd. Clay is wanting a VP slot, eh? I agree 100%. Josette Caruso. It's all part of the plan. Yesterday they called him a Nazi and they said that he's accused of pressuring canvassers. And just now it's being said that he stinks. What's your guess for tomorrow's accusation? Right? Donald Trumpo. Boom. Don Brickle. I'll put my bet on the Constitution rather than the retribution bill. How in God's name did you ever get elected? I love stuff like this. I want to look at Don Fickle. Let's see. Oh, let's see who they are. Because you have the Ukrainian flag here. And when you see the Ukrainian flag, you assume that you're going to see at least one tweet where they're talking about the blue check mark and how it's overpriced and how no one should buy it. But yet now we have the Ukrainian flag next to a blue verified check mark. Okay, so Don Frickle. All right, so he looks like an older gentleman. He's a retired lawyer, he says in his profile. Admirer of Papa Francisco, retired leader of all volunteer. Oh, nonprofit. Oh, he's in Virginia, of course. Wacky. Communist. I don't know what, here's the thing, like, I don't know what is going on with these people over a certain age. Like, if they have dementia or they're seeing a different world that we live in, because why would you want to support Ukraine? I guess maybe he's getting paid by defense contractors, or he made a lot of his money by way of getting paid by defense contractors in McLean, Virginia, defense contractor territory. Oh, yep. Now he's got some Bible commentary here, yet he's supporting Ukraine, he's supporting a war. Contradicts everything you read in the Bible. Stupid people. All right. Back to normalcy. Jack Hudler. The boom from the slap upside the head was beyond supersonic. Rudolph Troy Ha. They fight with lawfare, we fight back. That's true. Oh, he's got a LGBTQ plus flag, and he's got an American flag, and then he's got the verified blue check mark. I can't believe I'm actually doing this. I never think about this stuff, but whenever I'm on stream talking about these comments, I'm kind of curious. So he's alt-gay, claims he's an American nationalist, he's anti-woke. Retweet does not equal an endorsement. I'm very confused here. Alt-gay, I don't know what that means. So I guess he's a conservative, but he's a gay. Okay. Well, I agree, though. You do have to find a way. I think if they file lawsuits, you file lawsuits. And if someone is lying about you, you have to immediately correct that. And the only way to do that most often is by filing a lawsuit. I hate clowns. I hate clowns. Okay. High Tech Warrior. Who are you kidding with these theatrics? Oh, yeah. Audience of one. Audience of one. There's like 1,000 comments on this. This is crazy. Lee Thompson. Neither the Senate nor Biden would approve it, though. Probably true. Mila Joy. Thank you, Congressman, for actually stepping up to try to do something. We need more like you. Yeah, Clay Higgins, I've watched a lot of Clay Higgins on C-SPAN, and when he supported George Santos when he was being removed from his position in Congress, I had a lot of respect for Clay Higgins. I mean, he was sitting right next to him, and he knew what was going on. And Clay Higgins, he's a former, I think, sheriff's deputy or just a city cop. He knows how the world operates. He's actually trying to do something. Chris Noblet, let's just hope the rhinos have balls enough to pass it. The rhinos are worse and worse every single day. I mean, they're basically left-wing Democrats. I could name a few, but then they'd accuse me of committing a crime. Patriotic Suzanne. Did the bill pass? It was just introduced, sweetheart. Marge D. Hallelujah. Tony, 100%. Sandy Herzog. God bless. Donald Russo. Bingo. Repost this, please. Wade Watson. Thank you, Congressman Higgins. All right, so I would say about 70% positive. And I want to close the stream out with one more thing. And what is it? Oh, yeah, now I remember. It is. Okay, I saw this and I'll probably get a strike on YouTube. And I don't want to misrepresent. I'm just talking about the tweet itself. Let's see, where is it? Do I have it up? No, I don't. Let's grab it. I like this video here. Oh. I was going to talk about the economy, actually. I had Tucker Carlson's credit card stuff up here. Yeah, let's just talk about this briefly. So,
is credit cards. And if they're charging 24%, and that debt cannot be discharged through bankruptcy, thanks to Joe Biden's work on behalf of the credit card.
Okay, so Tucker Carlson, this is tuckercarlson.com, uncensored. It's a 21-minute, 22-minute interview. And they're talking about the economy, inflation, and credit card debt. The statement that you just heard was Tucker Carlson saying that credit card debt is not dischargeable in bankruptcy. And I was thinking about that because of Rudy's Chapter 11 petition that we just went through. And that's actually false, with two exceptions, I believe. And again, maybe I'm wrong. I could easily be corrected here, but there's only two exceptions where credit card debt is not dischargeable in a traditional bankruptcy. There is fraud. I think that's the one exception, and then the other exception, I can't even remember what it is. Hold on, let me check. I don't know what the other exception is. It doesn't really matter. But one way to avoid student debt is by putting student debt on a credit card, and then filing for a bankruptcy. So that could potentially be one of those exceptions if it's relatively recent. Like if you put some of the, what are they, like, they're not Pell Grants, but some of those loans that you can get, and then put that originally on a credit card, and then like 5 or 10 years later that you file for bankruptcy, you could probably get away with it. But if it's like within the last 3 months, they're going to start asking questions, and that could be construed as fraud. But so I found that interesting about this. But more importantly, again, I think the issue here is that they were talking about inflation being somewhere in the range of 20% and how the government is misreporting it. Totally true. I actually just bought some groceries. And I think even a year ago, those groceries would have been half the price that I actually paid. So let's just assume I paid about $100, because actually I did. I paid about $100. I didn't get very much. I got 3 12 packs, which are now in the range of $10 per 12 pack. A year ago, those were $4 or $5. I got some bread. That is, I think it was like $4, easily $2 a year ago, easily. What else did I get? I got some fiber. I bought, because I was running out, I bought the same fiber a year ago, and I think it was like 18 or 17 or 18 bucks. It was 44 bucks. 44. It's incredible. What else did I get? I got Pellegrino. Pellegrino was, I could go and check, but it was definitely double. I got some LaCroix water. That was like $6 or $7 for a 12 pack. It's like $2 or $3 a year ago. So whatever is being reported, even in the mainstream media, is not accurate. And so they're talking about this, and they're talking about the avalanche that we're about to experience with $1 trillion credit card debt that consumers are facing in this country. I had an article about that, but of course I can't find it. Damn. Where is it? Here it is. No. This is going to drive me nuts now that I can't find this. Where did it go? Well, hold on, let me look for it. Let me play this.
President Joe Biden is ramping up his Bidenomics sell
Oh,
to
here it is.
Americans
Yeah, that
with
is
the
it.
US election less than 1 year away. During a speech to the United Auto Workers in Belvidere, Illinois, the president claimed that household wealth has soared.
And wages are actually going up. Not just in your industry, but wages are going up. It's a fancy way of saying is median household wealth has grown by 37% since the pandemic, meaning people are better off, 37% better off.
But Americans are not convinced. The Republican National Committee tweeted, real wages are down by 3.2% since Biden took office, and middle-class households have lost, on average, more than $33,000 in real wealth in the past year alone. And people across the US were quick to react to Joe Biden's speech, criticizing it on X. One user wrote, Bidenomics is a disaster and anyone that lives in the US knows it. Another posted, where's my 37%? I ain't seen it yet, but
Yeah, this random person saying their grocery bill went from $160 to $225 per week. Now, this is about a month ago. And so that's an increase of at least 30% to 40%.
my grocery bill has gone from $160 to $225 a week. And another user said, this man lies without embarrassment. Americans aren't seeing prices.
I mean, I'm startled by the fact that the executive branch can have so much control about how these numbers are reported. Because even during the Trump administration, as strong of an economy that we had, you still had independent reporting from government agencies about how well the economy was doing. And you didn't get this feeling like the executive branch had a stranglehold on the information. Yet now with Biden, it seems like everybody's trying to downplay or taper the information so that it seems like it's better than it actually is. And if anything, it was the opposite before. People were trying to make it sound like it's worse than it actually was in an effort to, talk shit about Trump.
Drop as inflation comes down. They're seeing prices increase at a slower rate, and the household pain is real. People across the US are relying on credit cards to make ends meet. The amount of credit card debt in the US has topped $1 trillion.
$1 trillion in credit card debt. This is all going to come to an end.
For the first time.
The new data shows Americans are digging themselves deeper into credit card debt.
Who's making all the money off this? 22% interest rate on credit cards. that's close to loan shark levels, if it isn't already a loan shark level.
Debt, which is now hitting an all-time high.
For the first time ever, the total credit card debt across the U.S. has topped $1 trillion.
Unbelievable.
That's a $154 billion spike from this time last year, and the largest increase in more than 2 decades.
That's probably driven too by inflation, because the price of goods and services has increased so dramatically that therefore the amount of debt that people are incurring and putting on credit cards has also increased, because just the prices are so much higher now.
Many Americans just aren't buying Bidenomics. We know voters regularly say the most important issue to them.
So yeah, that's kind of a measurement of inflation, actually, is the adjusted rate of rise in credit card debt. And if it's significantly higher than even a year ago, I mean, that just tells us that inflation is at least 10%, at least. I don't believe that. I think inflation has been about 20% year over year for the past 2 or 3 years.
Is the economy. And look how Joe Biden is showing up in the polls. His approval rating dropped to a 7-month low, according to a Reuters Ipsos poll.
The approval rating is the lowest in the history of polls. They said that the approval rating at this stage in a presidency is worse than any other president in the past 40 years. In contrast to that poll number, and I was just looking at something, I wish I had it up, but I think Obama at this stage in his presidency had a 45% approval rate. And then Trump had also a 45% approval rating.
Poll released this week, and a separate Yahoo Finance Ipsos poll.
But I'm actually surprised that it would even be at 34%, because I don't know where they're, maybe these are migrants that are coming in and getting free money. They're getting those $1,200 prepaid cards, and they're getting free housing, they're getting free food, and they're all claiming that, they love Biden. So I don't know who, maybe it's these old guys like that Dan Friesen or whatever his name was, who support Biden because they're the same age and they're just dipshits. But I mean, I haven't talked to anybody who supports or likes Biden. And the people I talk to, I've asked, I'm like, hey, have you ever run into anyone who really is wild or supporting Biden? They're like, nope.
Found the majority of adults have doubts about the state of the economy. At 80 years of age.
And this is Australia. So, they're not as biased, I think. And they're talking about how bad it is. All right, let's end the stream with this tweet. Grab it. Ooh, I have those too. Quick.
Come in the name of peace. Come in the name of peace.
So, yeah, Zelensky comes in the name of peace, right? And you have a huge war. That's what you got to do to Zelensky. Got to throw some water on him. All right. I saw this tweet. I was actually very confused, and I don't want to get a strike on YouTube. I'm not saying this is true or not, and I don't want to talk about COVID-19 and trigger this ridiculous policy that they have. But there were people claiming on here with this video that this woman put it up and it was a complete hoax, that she did not actually have a vaccine injury. When I started reading these comments, I was actually, I was kind of angry. I was hostile because I assumed that they were then questioning whatever medical diagnosis or issue that she had. I have no idea what's true or not. I didn't do a lot of research on this, but I'm just if you go through the comments, again, I don't want to strike on YouTube. So YouTube, if you're reviewing this, please don't strike my channel. But so this guy, Don Ricardo, said this is clearly staged when anti-vaxxers resort to outright deception. It is reasonable to question their motives and sincerity. This person, Kiowa for Life, says it only happens to white MAGA Q women. I have yet to see anyone outside of that demographic claiming to have these type of issues with the, can't say that word. Weird, right? You could go into this tweet and see all the comments, but they're mostly saying that she's lying about whatever injury she has. And I think I'm more kind of like stunned by the fact that people don't question, people question everything and people don't believe things when they see it anymore. I think from any sort of political spectrum or vantage point. And I think that's the thing that startles me the most. Because it's got to a point where like, I don't know what's true or not. I don't know if she has this injury. I don't know if she doesn't. She claims that she does. So it's amazing, really. All right. So Christmas tomorrow, our Christmas corruption stream. Try and pressure your boy Agent X to get on the stream so we can get some viewers. Other than that, I hope everyone has a great Christmas, and I will probably try and stream tomorrow at some point, maybe in the morning, and maybe later in the evening as well, doing the nightly stream. See if we have any comments here before he pulls this down. Nope. Okay. I will see you later. Bye.
Thanks for watching Command HQ with Brooke and Agent X. We'll see you next time.